This podcast is brought to you by Progressive. Have you tried the Name Your Price tool yet? It works just the way it sounds. You tell Progressive how much you want to pay for car insurance, and they'll show you coverage options that fit your budget. It's easy to start a quote, and you'll be able to find a rate that works for you. It's just one of the many ways you can save with Progressive. Get your quote today at Progressive.com and see why 4 out of 5 new auto customers recommend Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
What you doing?
Trying on glasses with Zenny's 3D virtual try-on.
Wow, that's pretty cool. But those glasses kind of make you look like your Uncle Bob.
Oh, not exactly the look I was going for. Okay, how about these clear glasses? Oh, or these round ones?
Very on trend. I like both on you.
You know, I also like these aviator sunglasses.
Wait, are those the actual prices? I say get all of them.
Seriously, why not, right?
Oh, now I want new glasses.
Zenni.com. Quality prescription glasses starting at $6.95.
You're listening to Two Chunks and a Hunk. Movie musings for mostly everybody. Hello and welcome to Two Chunks and a Hunk. My name is Jordan Wonders, and this week I am your chunk.
I'm Doge, and don't worry, you're small and you're weak. That'll make you less of a chunk.
That was really good.
That was accidentally so good. I was surprised
really
myself.
The pressure is on Carter so bad right now.
I'm Carter, and now you're thinking about this all wrong. It's not so much what you look like. It's what's inside that he can't hunk.
That was also pretty good. For me, the edge goes to Doge only because of the pronunciation of the word worry.
Worry.
Yeah, that's very good.
Worry. Well, I mean, we're about to be 100% Scottish accents this whole time.
I'm gonna do the whole episode in this voice.
That's pretty good. You're locked in.
That's me, Craig Ferguson. I have a friend who's a skeleton. He's just bones, no skin or muscles.
You lost me on muscles just a wee bit. Just a wee bit.
No skin or muscles.
No, it was like it became French or something. He's got no skin or muscles.
Or muscles. My friend Jeff is a skeleton and he eats escargot.
Escargot.
Carter, why are you the hunk? Enough of Craig. Let's get Craig out of here. Let's hear about Carter.
Never
For very few times a year, I don my wizarding robes for graduation. And I get to not necessarily protect my school, if we want to stay on that accent run, but celebrate those graduates up there on the
Celebrate
stage.
your school.
Celebrate your school.
Graduate from school.
So I'm a hunk because of being a wizard. It's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
That's basically it.
I like a good short hunk sometimes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it feels like we're like, why are you the hunk? And then it's like, in a world.
Well, let me tell you a 25-minute story.
Right.
How about
Sometimes
a
about
sandwich
sandwiches.
monologue?
Yeah. Listen.
So what's the deal? Your wizard robes mean you're a magician with a hat or without a hat? Where did we
without a
land
hat,
on that?
for sure.
Without a hat. You're
There's
a
no hat.
magician
He doesn't
without a
have the
hat.
courage to wear a hat.
I have a hat.
Oh, it's like one of those flat graduation hats, right? I totally forgot those existed.
No, they're
I
like
was
squishy. They're kind of squishy, huh?
It's like a beret.
No, I don't have that yet. I'm not a doctor.
Oh.
You have the flat one,
I have a flat one.
the square one.
Listen, before we take away my hunktum, let's just
Is it a
go
spinny
into the
hat?
podcast. No, it doesn't spin.
Do you throw it?
I don't even get to throw it.
Why are you even going to this, dude?
Yeah, there's got to be something better you can do with your time.
Because there'll be a big old 12-foot gap on stage if I'm not.
A 12-foot gap.
They're like, I think somebody's supposed to be there.
Yeah, it's very obvious now.
That
when
wizard turned
somebody
himself
misses
invisible.
Oh, yeah, you could go that route. These are all good questions. There's no way to know, though. So nothing we can do about it. Look, I want to move on to start talking about the fifth movie, second to last in our Pixar series, chosen by you, our dear listeners, because I have been wanting to find a way to get this movie on the podcast for like a minute.
You are like the biggest apologist for this franchise that I know.
Yeah. And I'll tell you why in just a minute. But first, we got to say the name of the movie all together in a kind of obnoxious voice, as is our wont. And this movie is known as How to Train Your Dragon. Doge, I need you to synopsify it so that we can talk about it.
Usually whenever I find a new name on IMDb, I'm kind of fascinated by it and make up a little bit of a backstory for it.
Those are made up?
Yeah, I'm going to actually just give y'all the name. I want you to tell me who this person is, okay? This week's IMDb synopsis is written by KGF Vissers. What is KGF Vissers? I need you to tell me.
That's easy because it's real. That's a dubstep DJ.
Oh. Yeah, I thought it was a UFC fighter, but
no, dubstep DJ.
Could be both.
Is that for... Are you being for real? For real?
Maybe we're thinking about the same person.
That's how you know how good that was, is that you don't even know.
Wow.
You have no idea.
I just don't. I haven't Googled many dubstep DJs lately. I don't know many of them off the top of my head.
That's how much he's a dubstep DJ.
KGF Vissers. Dub steps up to the plate and writes this synopsis. Stoic the Vast, the giant widower chief of the Viking village of Nordic Island Berk.
What a pregnant sentence.
Has practically given up hope for his smart, sensitive, sissy shrimp son Hiccup, the cripple blacksmith's clumsy apprentice, to grow into a real Viking and contribute to their regular combats fighting off the copious plague of dragons. Grounded again after fouling another dragon attack ward off, Hiccup wanders in the forest and stumbles upon a tied-up baby dragon. Okay. Unable to kill it.
He's incorrect on a lot of these things.
Hey. Don't dubstep to him, man. This is his synopsis.
You better dubstep back, boy.
Unable to kill it, he frees it and finds it became tame and friendly, designs a prosthesis for its half-tail, and accidentally learns to fly toothless. Learning from it the truth about dragons, he aces the village's annual Young Warriors dragon slaying class without dangerous violence. Now Stoic expects Hiccup to kill a dragon and partake in the annual attempt to find and destroy the dragon's lair by ships. But flying toothless, he discovers the actual challenge and takes it on.
Get out of here.
So, okay, first of all, I hate flip-flopping between past and present tense when they're doing stuff like this, when it's like,
sure.
He discovers Toothless, and they became friends.
Yes.
Yep. I am in such grade mode right now that I was ripping this thing up.
Yeah, it drives me nuts. Second of all, there's so many like comma splice phrases in there.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's awful. It's a word salad.
Nuts. It felt like that synopsis was written in Danish and then put through Google Translate.
Listen, KGF visitors, stick to dubstep. I'm sure you're great at it. Synopsifying is a fine art. You know,
some people
go back to dubstep.
Some people can write about movies, and then some people, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
so
that's
I think
very
maybe
true. That's a good point.
Do that would maybe be better. Imagine School of Rock, but it's School of Dubstep. Still Jack Black, though.
That's interesting.
But he would be like, dubstep off! Dubstep off! You know?
Yeah. Did you say that whole thing to sing that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
It's on fire.
I really did.
This man's on fire, much like
the mouth of a baby dragon named
Jordan.
Toothless, who is tied up in the woods.
I'm giving you your turn, eyes.
Yeah. No, thank you. I appreciate it.
You go. You go.
How to Train Your Dragon. Now stick with me.
Have to.
What am I going to do? Hang up? Stop the recording?
I mean, all of these are options. Keep in mind that as something gains a fourth movie, it is no longer a trilogy. With that in mind, How to Train Your Dragon is the most perfect animated trilogy.
Interesting.
the first movie, the one we just watched, is by far the strongest, I think. But the other two really hold up. Characters stay pretty consistent. And a lot of what's set up in this first movie is continued really well, particularly the relationship between Hiccup and Toothless. It's really impressive to me.
Yeah.
If you guys haven't watched all three, you should.
Haven't seen
I cried like a baby at the end of the third movie. They're really powerful. They're really well done. And a lot of that is started here. And I'm just going to, it's not my super pump. This movie has no business having a soundtrack this
Right.
It's very
incredible.
It's very good.
Very, very, very good.
And I feel like it's just, did you guys ever read this book?
No.
It is completely different.
Yeah.
Like names are the same and that's about it.
That's the tricky thing is like, I feel like the movie needs a different name then, because How to Train Your Dragon, I'm sure works for the book. It doesn't quite feel like it works for the movie to me.
Well, it a little bit does. That's kind of what he's discovering is how to train dragons.
Yeah, I had a moment like that too, though, of being like, I wanted to. To preface, I had a hard time finding a super dump for this movie, so that kind of gives you a hint as to my enjoyment of it. And part of me was like, should I super dump the title because it feels like it gives away a lot. But I guess that it ended up being fine. It was good that I knew that, hey, even like, from this movie poster, it looks like they're getting along. The boy and the dragon, right? I'm trying to think of going into it in 2010, not knowing anything about the book or anything about the movie. It's like, cool. So it's going to be these people that work with dragons. And then surprised at the beginning that it's like, oh, we hate dragons. We're trying, okay, oh, wait, now I'm getting this. This feels like a similar beat
We actually don't train them.
Yeah, and then I was like,
them.
oh, it's E.T. then. Okay, great. We also hate aliens except for this one with this kid and that kind of stuff. Okay, whatever. And like kind of going through it. But I can't super dump on that because I can only ever know this as How to Train Your Dragon. I came up with other names, and it just doesn't fit. It's like any name I came up with, it's like, well, maybe Sean Connery should be the voice of the dragon. It was just like
it's Dragonheart.
Yeah, it's like Dragonheart.
Right.
Dragon trainers.
And I think there's like, so much. So I think the biggest thing, so the things that the book and the movie really share in common essentially are like names and setting, and then the heart. There's a lot of heart in the book as well. And it's really kind of sugary, syrupy, sweet in some spots. But the thing is, and we've talked about this before, we talked about it with Big Hero 6 as well. I so appreciate when a quote unquote kids movie, really, I think these movies are more appropriately termed like family movies. I don't think these are kids movies.
Yeah.
I don't think Big Hero 6 is either. It's a family movie.
Well, because I don't know that there's going to be many kids that like resonate with Stoic. Like when Stoic is like bringing back tears after he finishes talking to Hiccup, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
At the very beginning. That's not for kids, I don't think.
Right. And I think that's a distinction that is important to make, because I think a lot of times the quote unquote kids movies that we are enjoying as adults are actually family movies. They are made for a broad audience. I think kids movies are more things like Paw Patrol and stuff like that, where it's an exclusively child audience.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so map that distinction back throughout the movies we've done for Pixar so far.
I think every single one of these is a family movie.
Everyone's a family movie?
I would say Despicable Me leans more towards kids.
Okay.
But I think but I still think it's a family movie. There's a lot of not adult like nasty, but like there's a lot of like adult family humor in those.
And if you follow our Discord, you would know that it feels like really adults are what have kept Despicable Me alive.
Bingo.
And
Correct.
Minions alive over kids.
That Minion Memes channel.
I hate that it's our like most or second most active channel.
It's the worst.
Since starting it, I think the only word I've said in it is banana.
I know, and I love it.
It's my favorite bit that I have going right
like
now
it a
in my
lot.
life. The thing that I was going to say, I appreciate when family movies are unironically and unapologetically cool.
Yeah.
The fight scenes in this movie, the flight scenes in this movie, the way that the Night Furies like an X-Wing. I mean, it's so cool.
So here's what's different about
really
How to
cool.
Train Your Dragon.
Yeah, hit me.
Here's what gets to have this be in that epic scale for me in terms of a movie is my super pump, which you've said.
Yes,
I didn't think it would come up so early.
Give it.
Literally, my super pump is anytime we're flying. And I know that kind of
Sure.
feels like a shiny thing in the sky, like super pump, like, ooh, because it's pretty. But it's done.
It is, though.
The like choreography and the cinematography, it's all done so well. The moments
thing that
that
stands out to me is when they're both when Hiccup and Astrid are both on Toothless. Were you about to talk about this? I don't want to take it from you.
and it does that.
Yeah, it's just
dude.
like locked on to Toothless.
Yeah, it's locked on to Toothless.
Unbelievable.
We go upside down. Like they're really playing a lot with perspective when we're flying Toothless, and we're on Toothless a lot. So it could
Yeah,
have
a good
been,
bit.
if it was done any bit worse, it could have been over the top. But it's done so well, and the action is so good. This is a great action movie. Like I don't think you get to say that much about animated movies, right? There's always going to be
Right.
some element of action because that's fun. And whether it's action on a smaller scale because we're bugs or because we're toys in a big room and stuff. But then like How to Train Your Dragon separates itself as feeling like also mixed with the setting. There's a lot of good ingredients to make it feel like, you know, if you've watched Lord of the Rings or something like that, you're like, okay, I've been in this fantasy world and I've experienced
it.
action
Yeah.
here
Yeah.
before. This
Yeah.
fits. But then you remember this is a movie with a character called Chicken Legs. That is not really what
Not
humans
loud.
look like. And yeah,
Yeah.
just all these things. It's so fun. There were moments that
Yeah.
I got the little butterflies in my stomach because I was flying Toothless, and it kind of puts Betamax to shame.
I don't know who that is, but Baymax, it does put the shame
Baymax
for sure.
Betamax.
Betamax, isn't that a type of video platform?
Like a VHS
Possibly.
tape.
Baymax. It puts
competitor.
Baymax to shame, I think, with that flying scene that we get, even though that was a
I think
highlight
so
for
too.
us.
I think so too.
My super pump is just how fun and well done all the flying is.
There's something I've always loved. So I was a big Aragon fan. I think we've talked about that on the podcast before. Like I loved those books. But I think there's something so interesting and unique about the relationship between somebody flying on something that's living versus flying like a robot or a vehicle. There's just anytime you get like somebody riding a dragon or a hippogriff or any of these things,
Yeah.
there's a lot of like trust, like mutual trust involved that the quote unquote pilot isn't going to steer the thing flying into something painful and that the thing flying isn't going to let the pilot fall. So you have this sort of this instant bonding relationship of like, we're both relying on each other, especially with, I don't know. I'm not going to super pump yet. I'm going to hold on to it. But there's a lot of great stuff that bonds them. One of the things that I want to spend a little time talking about really is the soundtrack. I know we mentioned it briefly. This was nominated for Best Original Score. It did not win because
What
it was
won
up
that year?
against. I just read it. I'm sorry. I hold on. It did. So I just found it through the magic of the internet. It did lose to Trent Reznor's soundtrack for The Social Network. So what are you going to do?
What are you going to do there?
Did it?
Yeah.
What year? 2011 Oscars, I guess?
Mhm.
Okay. I looked at 2010 and Michael Giacchino won for Up.
Yeah, this came out in 2010, so it would have been the 2011 Oscars.
Listen, if you support us on Patreon, you know that I don't understand
Yeah.
how to tell what year an Oscars is.
Doge has a hard time understanding the concept of Oscars timing. So yeah, the soundtrack is not a kids movie soundtrack. This is a mature fantasy soundtrack, and I really, really like it. The score when they're flying for the first time up above the clouds is beautiful.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
And then anytime we get bagpipes, I get chills. I don't know what the deal is for me with this movie. This movie has a beeline straight to my heartstrings.
Yeah.
It really does. I don't know if it's just the sensibilities of the director just know exactly where I'm at or what, but it gets me pretty much every time.
May I super dump?
I would love for you to, yeah.
Just like how Toothless has a half tail that he needs a prosthesis for, according to our dubstep DJ. I'm gonna exert my half tail to send our positive energy crashing to the ground. My super dump is all the other kid Vikings.
Oh, okay.
They're nothing. They're nothing at all. They need to be more than what they are or less than what they are, but they're the wrong amount right now. because we're supposed to kind of know their deals, but they're super duper underbaked to me. And TJ Miller and Jonah Hill actually have the same voice. They're different. They're different bodies, but they share a mouth and vocal cords.
So I agree with the same voice. I disagree with everything else you just said, but that's okay.
Okay. Yeah, these guys I feel like need to be a little bit more. It's not as egregious as the Lil Hero 4 like we had a couple of weeks ago.
Right. I'm glad you said
but
that.
It is very, very much in that same vein of like,
sure,
everybody but Astrid kind of just has one motivation, sort of, I don't know. And it really could honestly be the fact that the only that TJ Miller and Jonah Hill just sound exactly the same in this movie. And it's hard to differentiate their characters.
Dude, see, so for me, and I hear what you're saying. For me, I laughed so much more at the interaction of these kids than I ever did at the Little Hero 4. Like,
yeah,
Jonah Hill has multiple lines in this movie that I think are so funny. I think that we get a good understanding of who everybody is here versus the Lil Hero 4.
Yeah.
But I do get where you're coming from, and I think what we're discovering is that with these family movies, side characters have this perfect bullseye for each of us, and I think it's a little different per.
Yeah, I think we probably, I don't know, if there's something in these kids' stories that could resonate with Hiccup, almost like I'm covering this insecurity by being this caricature,
Sure.
Just a little something for them to see themselves in Hiccup. I think that makes it better for me when they all decide to hop on dragons at the very end to go help Hiccup and save the other dragon. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's probably not necessary, because I think you're exactly right. In a family movie, we probably don't need everybody to be fully rounded, fully 3D. Like these kids exist to be moving Happy Meal toys. Right. So there's probably asking more than they can deliver.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that they're not as egregious as the Little Hero 4. Because I definitely think they aren't. I actually enjoyed having them be there for all the trials. It felt a lot more like everyone. It was like Astrid and Hiccup were that trifecta of Ron, Hermione, Harry in school for the first year, and then we had all these other little side characters that we'll get to know later. But now we know at least they're all experiencing the same beats. Like we don't have with the Little Hero 4. They just kind of go for a while. They do some trash cans for him at his showing of the robots, and then they just come back to save the world. Like this was kind of even though it does feel like it's a quick change, right? And I guess you could do like chalk that up to leadership. The two people that were the most respected were the ones saying, let's ride dragons. So of course the other four will. But yeah, it did feel like it fit better for me in this story, and I ended up enjoying that. I think what's also tough for us is in Pixar, we're not talking about Pixar here in terms of the characters there, which they tend to do side characters really well. Like just last week when we're talking about Tangled, there's something to be said about freaking Maximus. Like he's kind of tipping the scales for everybody as a character that never talked but had such a structured storyline that he was so easy to invest in. So, but yeah, I lean more towards Jordan's opinion on this, but I do get it. That was a part that just seemed kind of like they just showed up. I almost super dumped. Like we have no concept of distance in this movie. Like how far away is that island and how have you never discovered it? Because it feels like it might only take you 20 minutes to get there.
Right.
And the timeline of things doesn't really match up, but I'm not asking this to be Tolkien,
Well,
So
and there's that other aspect too of like nobody's ever tried to tell a dragon, get back. You know what I mean? Like if that's all it takes to train a dragon, nobody's ever been like, hey, back up.
Hey,
no.
Remember, he had the eel in his pocket. It wasn't just get back. He was repelling.
No, but they do that later. They do that later without the eel. I'm saying training the dragon is easy enough that it's sort of unbelievable. Hiccup's the first person to do it. But I was reading a piece earlier about people like obsessively looking for plot holes in things. It's like every story is full of plot holes. That's why it's fiction. You know what I mean? It can't happen and it won't happen. But every story is a contract between the teller and the listener, or the teller and the watcher. And you say, I'm willing to accept what you tell me as long as you make it worthwhile.
Yeah.
And I think like that's a great reason to overlook plot holes. Like in the real world, of course, somebody would have trained these dragons immediately. But it's fine. I like the story they're telling me.
Enough smart stuff. Snotlout at one point, Jonah Hill's character says during training, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to block out the sun? Because I can do that. I just don't have the time right now. And that's a really great line.
Yeah, that is really good.
What do you want? You want me to block out the sun? I could do it. I just don't have the time right now. That's a great line. Second of all, I have to hit my quota of Zelda references. I pictured the fog around the Dragon Island, kind of like the Lost Woods. Like, the reason they haven't found it is not because it's not close. It's just because once you hit that fog, you're so turned around, and there might be some sort of mysticalness to it. You're just not going to find it without a guide.
It's like Annihilation vibes.
Yeah.
Fanghorn Forest vibes. We've seen it before.
Yeah.
Okay. I get that.
That was the vibe I picked up. Now, that's not explicitly said, so that's me being an apologist for this movie, for sure.
Help me understand why it's okay to kill big dragon, but little dragons are friends.
My understanding is it's because big dragon is a threat in itself and the other dragons are not. Like, big dragon is hurting the small dragons by kind of like enslaving them. But I mean, the honest answer is I don't know. He's a big monster.
That kind of was a little confusing to me, that we spend the whole movie being like, these guys, they're not as bad as you think. They're really sweet and they're really kind. They could be our pets. But the second they get this big, gotta die.
But it's not just his size. They're not like, that one's too big to live. Like, he's aggressive towards the small dragons and the people.
Yeah.
That's my only thought.
It feels like a sliding scale. I mean, it doesn't bother me. Again, the story they're telling is worthwhile, so I'm willing to invest in it and overlook the plot holes. But it's a little confusing. And I watched this movie with the full intent of nitpicking it because I think it's actually really good and it's hard to find things that are wrong with it.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the only reason I even thought of that.
Yeah, I do think in the second How to Train Your Dragon installment, we do get some really, I mean, it gets pretty immediately more epic in the second one because we get these big wars now that we can control dragons, right?
Yeah.
And I think we are using some much bigger ones, like for our own. So I can get that a little bit with, again, not necessarily having the knowledge yet when I first saw this that we're going to use big dragons later. But it did feel like maybe there was an assumption. We were supposed to have some kind of assumption of a hierarchy that's not necessarily explained. That's like, and the higher you go, the more evil you are. But well,
because in the second one, right, there's the thing that's basically the orca from Godzilla King of the Monsters. That's like the kind of dragon control frequency.
Oh, yeah. And
so like if Big Boy was doing that, I understand why we have to kill the Queen of the Dragons. Yeah. You know, it's just, I don't know. And I'm probably grading it more harshly because there's stuff
I
think it does better.
That's why those dragons fling the kids off.
Is he mind controlling them?
I believe so.
I think they fling the kids off because the kids are making a lot of noise.
Yeah, I thought they flinged them off because the kids were banging and it was bothering the dragons too.
Oh, yeah. Maybe.
But that's what I'm saying is like the fact that we're kind of like, is he mind controlling them? What's going on? I think it just could have been explained a little better there.
I mean,
again,
honestly,
it doesn't bother me, and I'm intentionally nitpicking it.
Yeah. My super dump is, I love everything about the fight with the dragon, but my super dump is the side plot of the big dragon. Only because it feels like the only thing in this movie that's like truly underbaked, and we just kind of bring it in the third act, and we're like, we got to fight something. Yeah, and it feels I feel like this movie is. Now, hold on, because I love the fight scene. I think it's great to watch. I feel like this is a better movie if it just stays personal. About Hiccup trying to convince his village not to kill these things. But I mean, obviously, we benefit from how cool everything is at the end.
Yeah, I was going to say, if it stays personal, do you take away Big Dragon?
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Because then I'm out because I want it. I want that fight.
It's so cool to watch. But that's what I'm saying. I think the plot of the big dragon is my super dump. For the movie, just because it feels underbaked. The fight scene is incredible.
Well, I understand why they bring it in too, because you need something to be like, oh, the dragons had to come eat their sheep. They're really good if you give them a chance, but like dragons are good if you give them a chance. They're just being controlled by a bad dragon. Kind of is recursive a little bit. Kind of cancels itself out.
Sure. I mean, I think the second two movies, in my opinion, do a much better job of giving us villains with motivations that we can understand.
speak to the second one that I've seen. The second one is far, far more clear.
Yeah.
In terms of that conflict.
Plus, Hiccup has some pretty sweet armor. So
Yeah, that's very cool.
check that out. The other thing we got to check out is shout announcements. And that's happening if you just follow me. It's around this corner.
Yeah.
In that back room. If you just want to wait right there. The doctor will be in to see you soon.
Okay.
And he's going to check your shout announcements. Please remove your shoes. It's the shout announcement show where we give shout outs and announcements. Shout announcements. I'm kind of workshopping like a theme song.
Yeah.
I
Do
dig
you know
it.
what those are? Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's a work in
I'd say
progress.
keep working.
Yeah, it's a work in progress.
Keep making progress.
It's a work in progress. It's probably done though. I'm probably just doing like that.
Well, keep working.
It's probably finished.
It's probably in progress.
I think it's finished.
definitely in it. Inside the progress.
I meant
it's in
like
it.
Pending review.
I'm working on being done with it. Is what I meant. It's shout announcements, guys. And here's the thing. My first shout out is gonna be to coffee. It kept me alive today. My second shout out is gonna be to our dear beloved patrons. Look, if you are a fan of this show and you're not a patron to get that extra bonus content, what are you doing?
What are you doing?
What are you
figure it out.
doing? Figure
I mean,
it
it's okay that
out.
you're not, but it's not okay.
It's
not okay.
Like we're not mad. We know you're missing out, and it's like I want the best for you. It hurts me more than it hurts you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, same.
Except for reverse, it hurts you more than
And
it
it
hurts
hurts.
me.
Yeah, it hurts me more than it hurts Jordan. So it
Yeah.
hurts me more than it hurts him.
It
More
seems
than
like
it hurts
it's
you.
harder than most.
Yeah,
I
it's
like
pretty
it. It's good for me.
So we got the full gamut going on here. But listen, guys and gals, listeners, there is so much inside of Patreon. You get bonus episodes, one per series at least. But beyond that, you can go to tier 2 and jump into the Discord where we are having chit chats. I'm talking Minion memes. I'm talking the Marvel show.
I wouldn't have led with
talking-
Minion memes.
Hey, I did though. Is the thing. We're talking music recommendations. We're talking movie discussion. We're talking top 5s.
I mean, getting to know Adam is a reason enough to,
That's true.
to
Adam
reach the top tier.
Adam is a mystical figure that just sort of floats between realms. And one of the realms he floats between is, in fact, our Discord server. So please jump in, jump on.
Adam is
jump
a
around.
realm walker who's made his home within our Discord.
Yes.
Mm.
And for those of you that are on that higher Discord level, once you reach that, don't forget, there's still a couple more steps. Doge, what were those steps? Don't they receive something after they reach the $5 level to guide them through joining the Discord chat?
Yeah, you should get an email with some step-by-step
Electronic
instructions.
mail. Yeah.
An
I see y'all out
electronic
there.
mail require no stamp delivered straight to your home personal computing device. We'll walk you through joining our Discord. It's a good time over
But
there.
where's the envelope, Doge? That's what everybody wants to know.
The real envelope is the friends you make in Discord. That's really good time.
Oh, so good. And either of those levels gives you an extra vote, which is for our Summer of Love series that's out there right now. The Summer of Love, the 4th time we have done
It will
Summer
never
of
die.
Love. And there is quite a wide net cast out there. So it could be it's probably going to be a very fun series that's a little bit all over the place with the through line of love, as it always is for the
Always.
summer. And in terms of love, here's something we need you to do. We had a huge push early on in our lives. We had that energy of people that just wanted this podcast to stick around. And we had a ton of reviews early on in our career. And then even more when we were trying to reach a certain goal to become Rotten Tomatoes critics. If you don't know the end of that story, we tried to become RT critics. And Rotten Tomatoes said no, because we weren't stuck up enough and we didn't have enough sticks up our butt.
That's not why they said no.
And so we decided, you know what? We don't want to change who we are, and we think that's what makes our podcast attractive. So if that means we're not going to be official Rotten Tomatoes critics, I'd rather be an official Two Chunks critic. So if you want to keep
That's beautiful, man.
that, you keep that train chugging along. We are experiencing higher than ever. Doge and I were talking about when Jordan was out slaying a dragon. In between takes here, Doge and I were talking about how much growth we've had on this podcast and how there used to be these moments that we would celebrate. Like we couldn't believe we had 100 downloads in a week. And then we couldn't believe we had 24,000 total downloads. We had made Bruno Mars the hunk that week because 24 Karat Magic. And then we're kind of like...
Forgot about that.
And with this exponential growth, something that for sure we know, it is not an IMDb algorithm. It's a legitimate algorithm. We know that it is really good for our podcast to rate and review. So if you haven't, especially for those of you that are on any level of our Patreon, it's a really easy thing. You've already proven to us that you're willing to go above and beyond a few more mouse clicks, a few more electronic email reads to get more content. I wish you would do the same for the sake of rating and reviewing this podcast so that we can be Falcon Punch levels of strong. That's kind of what we're looking for.
That's the goal.
Did we really make Bruno Mars the hunk that week?
I'm almost positive.
I
love
remember
that.
it.
I love that. Do you ever look at stuff that you were a part of and be like, man, that was great?
Always. Every day.
Almost never.
Hey, the other thing I want you to do while you're reviewing, go ahead and tell your
Hey, I don't
friends.
get a turn. I don't get a turn.
Well,
if
you
you're
do-
keeping
you-
track at home.
You do
I don't
get a
get a turn
turn.
for shout announcements.
You do get a turn, but Carter forgot the second part of his, which is rate, review, and tell your friends.
Oh, yeah.
Share us with your friends, your buddies, your family. That's honestly, word of mouth is, besides reviewing, the biggest thing you can do to help us grow. And we really appreciate every single person that you scream our podcast name at from your car as you drive down the street.
What I was supposed to talk to you guys about, listeners, is our poll that's open right now that closes today on release day. But Carter already covered it. You know Summer of Love is coming. You know it's about to be the hot time of the year, which means we're going to have the coolest time with you guys watching the love movies. So vote for them. You get to pick 5. Hit the link in our Instagram bio or go to twochunksandahunk.com/vote to cast your polls, make your voice heard. And remember, if you support us on Patreon, go ahead and check the post there. You've got another poll that you can vote in, which means you get twice the power of a regular listener.
The House of Roll journeys far and wide to bring you exceptional quality kitchen and bath fixtures. We've discovered the world's best craftsmen and techniques. Using materials native to the region and tools accustomed to individual craftsmen, we strive for perfection every step of the way. With all of this, you'll see the details of your own story, the story of a life well crafted. This is the story Craft tells. Welcome to the House of Roll.
This podcast is brought to you by Progressive. Have you tried the Name Your Price tool yet? It works just the way it sounds. You tell Progressive how much you want to pay for car insurance, and they'll show you coverage options that fit your budget. It's easy to start a quote, and you'll be able to find a rate that works for you. It's just one of the many ways you can save with Progressive. Get your quote today at Progressive.com and see why 4 out of 5 new auto customers recommend Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
I'm super pumping and it's happening right now.
Go.
We talked about this a little bit. We'll talk about it more someday, maybe. There is, for some reason, nothing that gets me more misty-eyed in a movie than representation of underrepresented groups of people. When I first saw Into the Spider-Verse, my brain was just filled with fictional images in my head of young Black boys and girls seeing a superhero that looked like them, that was awesome, like Spider-Man. And it just made me so weepy. I get the same feeling thinking about a young child with a prosthetic seeing Toothless and Hiccup, not even having to overcome their prosthesis. Just like, it's just part of them. Here we go. Especially beyond this movie, it never even comes up again as an issue. But when Hiccup first steps out of bed, stumbles, and then he's good to go. I don't know, man. There's something so important and special to me about especially kids seeing themselves in the stories that they consume.
Yeah.
I get misty thinking about it. Like, I think that's why this movie has such a special place in my heart, because it happened when it happened the first time we watched it and he stepped out of the bed, I like gasped. I was like, oh, whoa.
That's big. That's massive stakes.
Totally. And the bond that him and Toothless now have with sharing sort of like a similar injury as well.
Yeah.
It's just perfect, man. It's just so perfect.
Because we had already seen kind of another view of that because there are, it's a Viking island.
Right.
So there's several characters, especially, Craig Ferguson.
Like Gobber.
Who has, anything you'd see in a pirate movie, like a ton of like prosthetics, which in that sense, not that it was necessarily insensitive, you're viewing it in a way that you've viewed it before. But when Hiccup gets out of bed, you could tell the directors knew the weight of that and actually seeing that. And then the fact that it does kind of have this connection to the narrative as a whole with now an even bigger bond between him and Toothless. I'm there with you. I second that emotion. Even though I've super pumped already. I pumped that with you. Almost
Thank
super.
you.
I haven't mentioned yet how much I do love Craig Ferguson's interchangeable blacksmith arm.
It's so cool.
I think that's really fun.
It is really fun.
Gobber's a great character, I think.
Yeah, very much.
The interactions, Doge, we actually get 2 separate 3-beat payoffs within about 8 seconds of each other at the end of the
We sure
movie.
do.
We get the 3rd iteration of this is for that and this is for everything else from Astrid.
Yep.
And then we also get the payoff of you just gestured to all of me.
Yes.
And I knew that Doja's little 3-beat brain was going to go crazy in that last moment.
So the one with Astrid, both of those are, I guess I don't feel the need to single them out. They're both a little too lampshaded for me. You know what I mean? I think both, they work. They're definitely 3 beats. They follow the pattern of establish, reinforce, and then subvert on the last one. First 2 are the same. Third one's different. And they're both like that. But both of them are pretty lampshaded in a way that feels sort of like Baby's first 3-beat. You know what I mean? Like, oh, that's great. Can we do it like without maybe having the exact same dialogue and the same, you know what I mean? I think there's a way to take the lampshade off of it a little bit and let it just be more organic. But then, our target audience might miss that stuff.
You know that friend that you have where you're at like a gas station and you're like, Derek loves Gatorade. And you buy him a Gatorade and you bring it to him. And he's like, thanks, I guess. I don't know. This isn't really my favorite flavor. Whatever. And then you're like, never buying you Gatorade again. I tried to do a nice thing and then I'm never buying you Gatorade again. I just handed you 2 perfect examples of one of your favorite things to talk about. And you were like, actually, let me tell you why it sucks.
No. They're good. They're great.
And this is what Derek would say about the Gatorade as soon as I said he's not getting another Gatorade.
They follow the pattern perfectly.
Glacial Freeze is fine. No, I do like it.
Yeah. This is a great drawing. We'll put it on the fridge.
Right.
With all the other good ones.
Bingo.
Not frameable, but it's fridgeable.
It's fridgeable for sure. That's exactly what just happened.
Yeah.
Is it okay if we talk about Toothless and his design?
Super pump.
Yeah, I figured.
Toothless is my super pump.
Yeah.
The way that our animators are able to have him seamlessly switch between this fictional reptile, an actual dragon, by the way, not like a wyvern like Game of Thrones. Actual dragon, 4 legs, 2 wings. It's a hexapod rather than a quadrupod.
Thought the same thing when I watched it.
But the way that our animators are able to have him switch between a dragon, a panther, a house cat, and like a Labrador retriever, he just feels so fully realized. Like he moves
Pretty
like
brilliant.
a ton of stuff I've seen a million times and like nothing I've ever seen before.
Right. Yeah.
It's just an incredible accomplishment in animation.
I was reading that his movement inspirations were cat, dog, and horse.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's so
Totally
much in
see
the
that.
eyes too.
Yes.
Which is it's subtle, but it's also very significant. All of his movements and stuff.
The
I
scene
think
where
it's
he
great.
smiles, he learns to copy Hiccup's smile.
Yes.
This is my favorite piece of trivia about this movie. It was inspired. One of the animators had a baby, like a toddler, that was learning to smile on purpose and had no
so
teeth
funny.
yet. And so the smile was just like with like empty gums. And that was the inspiration
It's so
for
good.
Toothless's weird smile.
Carter, does he remind you of Nana?
He does
Yeah.
so much.
I was wondering that while I was watching it.
Yeah, we have a flat-coated retriever, which is basically a golden retriever but black.
Yeah.
And so, there was a lot of, there was one moment where he was laying down Not at the very end when Toothless is covering Hiccup up from saving him, but one of the early times when Toothless has recognized that they can't fly yet, or at least can't get out of that little ravine.
Yeah.
And Nana was curled up on the couch the same way. And so we were like, it is Nana.
Dude, when Toothless was on the tree and his tail was hanging and twitching,
Yeah.
no joke. Bruce was on his little cat thing and his tail was hanging and twitching. I mean, seeing things that you see every day recreated in a weird animated way is crazy.
Well, I think it's a shortcut too, because
Totally.
we
It's a visual
totally-
language.
Exactly. We make Toothless do the same things that our beloved members of our families do. And so we as an audience
Automatically like him.
I would die for Toothless because
Correct.
he reminds me of my dog.
Correct.
He reminds me of my cat. Yeah.
Y'all stumbled upon a calm theory. That's structuration theory.
Ooh.
Building worlds based off of the pieces you've subconsciously taken from what you've already experienced.
Yeah.
Yep. It
Foundation's
works,
already
too.
there. You don't have to lay it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
it's very smart.
It's a shortcut, but not in a cutting corners way, just in a we don't have to establish this, let's just move on kind of a way. But yeah, I think Toothless, first of all, I laughed. I made an X-Wing joke earlier. It does feel like when he's doing his like strafe run, it is unironically one of the coolest things I've ever seen in an animated movie.
Yeah,
and
very
the
much.
sound of his flame, they're just like,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool. The
They've-
fireballs.
They did such a good job. They being like storyboarding, whoever were the creators collectively of this movie. of
same
calling
guys who
their-
did Lilo and Stitch, by the way.
Oh, yeah. They're good with the little creature to kid relationships.
Totally.
Calling their shot as to what Toothless was, like in terms of like the kind of animal this would be.
Right.
Like, because it does still, like, when Toothless has to turn it on, Toothless can also be incredibly capable.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and a lot of it does have to do with like the sound mixing of a flame that is very distinguishable among hundreds and movies to come after in this world, thousands of other creatures on screen. You can pick out Toothless pretty
Totally.
quickly.
Yeah.
And just such a good job. Now, in the sound mixing realm, I have a super dump, and it was legitimate for me in my movie watching experience. But what's going to be weird is if it's because of the technology that I specifically had. But there were times when the action was so loud, I felt like I missed important conversations, like important dialogue.
Interesting.
Especially in the very beginning. So the very beginning when he's just setting up the town
Yeah.
and talking about the town, I didn't know a lot of what he was saying because we had this sweeping soundtrack. We had these dragons coming in and just ripping up this town and stealing the livestock that I missed a lot. And that's tough because at the end, it's done better. I was like, okay, maybe it's not an issue with my television or my sound system because we basically bookend that by saying like, here's what the town is now.
Yeah.
Right? We've got like the coolest pets in the world. And it felt like I was really supposed to be able to hone in on what they're saying as he's setting up the world. And for me specifically, I missed it because it was too loud. And I don't know if that was just me.
It was loud over here too.
I didn't have that issue, but I have encountered so many movies that are hard to listen to on a home theater that I can definitely relate to. On our soundbar, we have a clarity option that is supposed to tune up voices. And there have been a lot of movies that I've had to watch, especially if I started at like 8:30 or 9 at night. We have neighbors downstairs. The number of times I've had to turn my sub basically off and then turn clarity on so that I can listen at about 2/3 volume and not blow my neighbors away to different movies, because the mixing is just like, you're either blown away by the loudest stuff or completely missing the quietest stuff, and there's no in between.
Yeah. Super
and I
wide
think
dynamic range.
This conversation brings about we don't have to spend too long on it, but a pretty interesting dynamic as to just the world we live in terms of what's the difference between a movie made in 2020 and a movie made in 2009 or 2000. It's like the progression in technology of the movie making biz. It has massive leaps at times. And so all the coolest, shiniest things, if you especially love movies and what you're buying to consume those, can't always catch up. Like, I remember how strange it felt not 3 or 4 years ago that we got the battle at Winterfell and nobody could see what was going on.
I know.
Yeah.
And then you start texting your friends because you realize we live in a world that's like, is my brightness down, right? Because that's
Right.
happened before. Because we have to do this thing to where we have to catch up and adapt to what we're consuming. But then
and then it turns out that was just bad. It turns out it was just
everybody's
bad.
like, no, dude, had no idea. Like one of the
Yeah,
biggest
I
battles
didn't
we'd
know,
ever
like-
get in Westeros. I don't know what happened.
Was it my TV or was the last season of Game of Thrones absolutely dragon poop? You know, maybe that's just my TV settings.
Did you have your make
Yeah.
it good setting turned on? Do you have a
You
smart
know
TV?
what? I had the embaddener turned on. It
that'll do
embaddened
it.
it. Yeah,
That'll do
that's
it.
my fault. That's my
That
fault
will
for sure.
Do it.
So I
No.
get to keep my super dump here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
It's valid because at the beginning everything's cranked up to 11, like visuals, dialogue,
Which I
sound
get
effects,
though. I
and
get
music.
It's like, yeah.
It's a strong way to start, but when everything's at 11,
I couldn't keep
nothing
up.
is.
Yeah.
Thanks, syndrome.
Yeah. the design of all these dragons is so fun.
I love
Oh my
it.
gosh.
The like
It's so
hummingbird.
fun.
What are they called? The like
Gronkles?
Yeah, gronkles. The
the fat
ones.
ones are like a
boys.
bumblebee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I love the two-headed dragon. One is the gas and one is the spark. That
Yeah,
is
that's
so
cool.
unique.
Yeah. All the dragon designs, and even in the monster manual that he's looking at, or the dragon book that he's looking at, is awesome.
The
Like all of it's
Necronomicon.
such cool. The Necronomicon, yeah. And I loved what's the chubby kid's name? The one who knows all the stats from
Chicken
the monster
legs.
manual.
No,
He's
Chicken
basically
legs.
he's like a D&D
Fish
player.
legs.
Fish legs.
Fish
sorry.
legs.
Yeah, fish legs is basically like a D&D
Dude,
player. 'cause
his
he's
stats,
giving you
that he
stats and
spouts
stuff.
are amazing.
His stats. Love that. He's metagaming too much.
And
Just
they
fight the
go-
dragon, bro.
Gobber
Yeah.
goes, what's the first thing you need to do? And he goes, get +5 speed.
Yeah. Such
so
a video
funny.
game vibe too.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh man, he's really is funny. Man, Gerard Butler and Craig Ferguson are worth having a conversation about because they're
I almost
just
super
people.
pumped Gerard Butler.
Dude.
I almost super pumped him.
He's
This
so
man is
good.
really underrated, and it's because the first time we saw him, anyone can remember him as 300, right?
Right.
And they're like, oh,
Yeah.
he's always going to be Muscle Boy. It's like,
He's
no,
a
dude,
grumpy
he's
muscle
got
boy.
a few more layers than you would think. But
He has more range than
way more range.
Muscle Boy. I think that he suffers from picking really bad projects too many times.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Isn't
that,
he Olympus Has Fallen? Or is he White House Down?
Hold on,
He-
I will tell you
not
the
sure.
answer. He is.
They're the same.
He's
Olympus
some
Has
event
Fallen.
that is crumbling. Yeah. Okay.
He's Olympus Has Fallen.
Yeah. Well, he does that, and he did I think he did Gamer. Like he's just been in a lot of
Yeah.
stuff that's not.
Maybe
good.
Gerard has bad taste.
Yeah, I mean that's a very, very good possibility.
Mhm. Shout out Greenland though, real quick. Shout out, go on HBO Max. If you just watched How to Train Your Dragon and you're like, man, I love this Gerard Butler dad energy, go watch Greenland on HBO Max, which just came out. I think it's close to an 80% on Rotten Tomatoes from critics
cool.
even. So it feels Bird Boxian in terms of it kind of came out of nowhere and people liked it a lot, except this is another version of the end of the world.
Cool.
But it's really fun. It's really fun. And it seems like a good enough budget to make it realistic. And
Yeah.
it's a blast. I would go watch it.
Interesting. It's on my list now.
Very, I was very surprised by how much I love Gerard Butler. Very surprised by Craig Ferguson, honestly. I didn't even know this was a thing that he could do this well. You know what I mean? This stuff
Well,
is
I mean,
great
talk
from
about
him.
it fits.
Yeah,
there couldn't have been
totally.
a better, it was it makes so much sense.
Totally.
Yeah.
I mean, he is the most Scottish.
Yeah. It's like when this is exactly like, and I'm doing massive winks here. It's exactly like when that Secret Life of Pets sequel got a really grumpy, almost dead dog and had Harrison Ford voice it. You know, it's it has to be. It has to be this person.
I forgot about that.
You know,
Yeah.
those perfect fits.
Harrison Ford's classic role as Grumpy Dead Dog.
Grumpy dead dog. The other
I think his
person
name's close to that though.
I would like.
Hey, is he
to-
really in that movie?
Oh, I thought we were
Yeah.
doing a bit.
No.
Oh, I
Oh.
thought you made that up.
Yeah, I
I
thought we
didn't.
were doing a bit.
Nope.
The other person that I feel like deserves a huge shout out here is Jay Baruchel. And honestly,
Yeah.
America Ferrera. They both bring a lot of life
Yeah.
to their characters. For me, I hone in on Jay just because he typically is doing a sort of what's the word I'm looking for here? Nothing sacred, tongue in cheek kind of a comedy thing. where he's just really irreverent. That's the word I'm looking for. Like a very irreverent comedy. And yet here we get this really sincere, kind of saccharine almost little character. And he really does, I think, bring Hiccup to life in a really fun way.
Yeah.
Weird that Hiccup's
such a
Canadian.
unique voice, like such a unique, there's just not, I've not really seen any other animated characters quite like Hiccup in terms of just like the voice and demeanor. And that's totally Jay.
Yeah.
Well, and I don't know if it's because they couldn't afford Michael Cera or like, because there always seems to be, you know, it's just an assumption as to who's going to play a role like that.
Right.
And so for them to either redirect or just decide, you know, he's the best fit, I think was a great play.
Yeah, I agree.
The dog's name is Rooster.
Rooster.
Harrison Ford's Rooster.
I've never been less interested in a movie.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I don't know that.
My name's Rooster. I wish I wasn't in this movie.
Yeah, there it is. There's the Harrison Ford.
It already sounds like he's like almost growling anyways.
So we talked a little bit. We're going to definitely get more into it next week. But we talked a little bit about there are certain things like Pixar took the heartfelt, depth-driven animated movie and said, this one's mine. And for about 20 years, nobody even stepped to the throne. Everybody was too afraid to go there for the most part. But I feel like what happened was Shrek came along and everybody for about 11 years said, I can try to do that. And in my opinion, we just saw a ton of people swing and miss. Movies that people watched that I have probably seen that nobody will ever talk about them in a positive light again because they were of their time in a way that Shrek isn't.
Over the Hedge.
Over the Hedge is a perfect example. Yeah, that's perfect. Shark Tale, I would say, is another great example. There are those movies. But then, now granted, it's also DreamWorks, so they're allowed to pivot whenever they want. But DreamWorks comes along with this, with How to Train Your Dragon, which I would argue...
I think both of those were also DreamWorks. Over the Hedge and Shark Tale.
There's a very good chance. I don't know for sure. So is Kung Fu Panda, which is just trying to be Shrek as well, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But you get this from DreamWorks, which all of a sudden is this like real is the wrong word. I don't mean real as in realistic, but more just like it's a personal story. It's kind of starting to step into that.
It's emotionally
Pixar
true.
steez a little bit.
Yeah.
I would argue that there's nothing else DreamWorks has ever done that sequels make more sense.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Sequels don't feel like money grabs; they feel like story continuations.
We got to keep going. Yep, I
don't think anything else DreamWorks has done even feels close to that.
I'll say this: in the third How to Train Your Dragon, they do the thing where they bring in like girl version of.
Yeah, and that's on the movie. No, that's not even a spoiler. That's on the movie poster and all that stuff.
But it's really done fine. Like it's not. Yeah. It's not done in like a weird pandering, we need merchandise way. Like it really does round out. I don't know. That's why I say like this is the most perfect animated trilogy to me. It's so thoughtful. Even when the movies are, you know, a 7 out of 10 instead of a 9 or 10 out of 10, like they're still great. They still stand head and shoulders above most competition.
Oh, I was going to say you'd say that it beats Toy Story, but I forgot that Toy Story is not a trilogy anymore.
A trilogy. Although I think if I had to pick one to watch all the way through, I think I would pick How to Train Your Dragon.
Yeah.
What did you say, Carter?
They're in the process of a 5th even for Toy Story.
That's the Buzz Lightyear spinoff though, right?
Yeah. I think I didn't know if you meant like same story or same universe, but
it's crazy.
No, yeah.
But yeah, I think I would pick How to Train Your Dragon over Toy Story for what I would want to watch, honestly.
Yeah. I can see that. I mean, I've said it probably a million times. Every time we talk about an animated movie, I usually end up saying that I think animation learned the wrong lesson from Shrek.
Totally.
Because Shrek is a powerful story about self-identity. And what every animation studio found out was like Shrek is a funny story with farts.
With pop culture references. That's the thing, man.
We have to make pop culture and farts in our animated movies rather than... This is a story that's emotionally resonant and has something I can relate to in it.
Yeah.
You know?
This feels like DreamWorks course correcting itself.
Certainly.
After
Yeah.
learning its own wrong lessons, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
anyway, it's time to rate this movie. We'll talk plenty about
Let's do
Shrek next week, but it's time to rate this movie using the scientific cinema scale, which is perfect and as follows. The best thing we could ever say about a movie is own it, don't lend it.
Buy that poster.
The next best thing is buy it.
I almost said buy that movie.
Buy that
As
movie.
if I've never said this 500 times. Go ahead.
After that is rent it. That's followed by stream it. And then after that is forget it. And last, but certainly least, the worst thing we could ever say about a movie.
God hath forsaken us.
I'll go first. I'm buying the poster. It's at least a top 10 movie for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like
Ever?
top 10 all time or top 10 animated?
Top 10 ever, I think. This is the textbook definition. So we watched Crazy Stupid Love yesterday. Just sort of, it was just on in the background while we were doing stuff at the house.
Yeah.
And I had the thought, I was like, Crazy Stupid Love and How to Train Your Dragon are both the epitome of, I have a mild fever and chills. I'm not going to work and I just want to lay on the couch and throw something on that brings me comfort.
Comfort food.
Those
Yeah.
two movies, man.
And I would argue those two movies probably also serve as really, really workable templates for other movies in their genre.
Bingo, correct. Yeah. So it's
They're
an easy
sort of
poster
Rosetta
for
Stones.
me. Plus,
Yeah.
and this is always a nice plus. The poster's really pretty. So I would actually buy this poster.
I'm also going to buy the poster. Oh, that's a great poster.
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to buy this poster. This is, I don't know, it just hit me right in the right spot. This is like, I would have read this book in middle school. You know what I mean? Not the actual book, How to Train Your Dragon. I'm pretty sure that's a children's book, like an early reader's thing. But like, if there was a book about a Viking who befriended a dragon and then taught all his people that dragons are cool, and there's a whole book series about them writing, I mean, I would have read that over and over and over again in middle school. This is just exactly for me, I think.
Mm-hmm. Y'all hear me here. Tell me what you think, but it feels good. How to Train Your Dragon is the two chunks of animated movies.
I love this. I don't even know what you mean, and I love it already.
That's fine. Compare
Two
me to
chunks-
something that I've just said I love.
Two Chunks and a Hunk is a movie podcast.
Handsome.
We all know this. And there's a lot of other movie podcasts out there. Except there's really not much comparison
Sure.
because of things like not being Rotten Tomatoes critics, not doing things like that. So How to Train Your Dragon is a buy the poster without any outside accolades that are like tangible, right? It's a bunch of just, this is an outlier among other things within its genre, which makes it's actually its own separate wonderful thing.
Right.
I think How to Train, there is nothing in the animated universe like How to Train Your Dragon. In terms of the actual sweeping story that it tells, and how well it does it and continues to do so, and somehow strangely remain kind of under the radar. But in
It
a
does
way
feel
that like
underrated.
it feels underrated just because a lot of people don't talk about it, but the box office would tell you that people love it.
Yeah.
So it's really strange, but I think it is just such a good story and it's done so well that it feels almost out of place in an animated series on Two Chunks and a Hunk. It feels like it should be something that was given its own 3-beat at a later time, or something that we would have done in like a fantasy series or something like that. And I think it's just because it's too good for its own good.
Yeah. It is that weird, like underrated, under the radar, but everybody that I talk to loves this movie. It's the second place in our voting
Yeah,
for
that's
this
crazy,
series, you know what I
right?
mean? Like, how does it still feel? It's like your favorite band that everybody loves, but you're still convinced that they're only something for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's why I said it's the two chunks of animated movies.
And I will give myself a forget it because I yucked all over the 3 beats that Jordan brought me, and I feel really bad about that.
Mm-hmm.
I
Now
don't feel
you
bad
do.
about it.
I'll choose to forget me. And I just fade away.
Now,
Sounds like a Hoobastank song.
I choose to forget me. To end today's episode, I'd like for each of us to say our name and which type of dragon we would like to ride. You cannot say a Night Fury.
Are we allowed to look them up?
Yeah. For Two Chunks and a Hunk, I'm Jordan Wonders, and I'm riding the one that Snotlout rides like a Harley. His hands all the way up on the horns.
That's cool.
I think that's so funny.
Mm-hmm.
That's my answer. That's my answer. You can't take it.
Guys, there's so many types of dragons.
There's a lot, dude. They get crazy, man. The ones in later movies. I think it's the second movie has one. Hold on, I need to find the name of it. It's huge. Bewilderbeast.
Yeah. Yep. I'm Doge, your favorite Viking. My trusty steed is named Cumberbund, and he's a thunder drum, which makes
Cumberbund the thunder drum
makes a loud concussive sound that can kill a man, according to Hiccup.
I'm gonna have a gaggle of the little ones that are really cute.
Oh yeah,
the like little ones,
the tiny ones,
and it's gonna have vibes of like the villain from Big Hero 6.
Amazing.
Except I'm gonna train so many of my little guys that I can like break off, come back together. I think that would be up last, and I just want to cuddle up with them when one of them just came up and like Hiccup is like got 2 relationships with dragons now. That was such a sweet moment.
That one was just straight up cat.
Yes. They didn't have to try very hard. That is cat.
That's just a cat.
This podcast is brought to you by Progressive. Have you tried the Name Your Price tool yet? It works just the way it sounds. You tell Progressive how much you want to pay for car insurance, and they'll show you coverage options that fit your budget. It's easy to start a quote, and you'll be able to find a rate that works for you. It's just one of the many ways you can save with Progressive. Get your quote today at Progressive.com and see why 4 out of 5 new auto customers recommend Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
With the powerful combination of Michelin X1 tires and the Michelin Energy Guard aerodynamic solution on your truck, you can save 17 gallons every 1,000 miles. Go to business.michelinman.com/fuel saver for details.